And here we are 3 years into the war in Ukraine. President Trump saying that a peace deal could now be on the horizon. He spoke at the White House today. We watched it live with the French President Emmanuel Macron as America's stance toward Russia and Ukraine shifts beneath Europe's feet in many ways. Now, Macron says France is committed to helping shoulder more of the financial burden, and Europe in general is committed to that as long as peace does not mean a surrender of Ukraine, to use Macron's words. NewsNation's Robert Sherman now live from the North Lawn at the White House. He was in the East Room for that news conference. What's the latest, Robert?
Yeah, Connell, I think that last little bit that you highlighted right there is a really critical element of all of this to ensure that it doesn't look like a surrender of Ukraine. That has been a main concern that many of these European countries have had, is that any form of a capitulation harks back to the days of appeasement and may give the Russians a green light in order to do this again, if not in Ukraine, elsewhere. That is the concern that many of these European nations have because it is in their own backyard there. But then you heard the counterbalance of that from the French president, Emmanuel Macron, that there has to be security guarantees. And at times he praised the president over his administration's pursuit of this rare mineral deal with the Ukrainians, which the U.S. is framing as effectively a de facto security agreement with the Ukrainians. If the U.S. is invested in Ukraine, they're not simply going to walk away from those investments if there are any foreign threats. That's the element that European leaders were looking for in all of this here. The president talked pretty extensively about his discussions that he's had with both the Ukrainians and the Russians, defending his choice in order to have these conversations and open these dialogues with the Russians. This is what he had to say on that. Take a listen.
When I got here, one of the first calls I made was to President Putin, and we were treated with great respect, and they want to end this war. So that's a big thing.
Now, you may recall it was Emmanuel Macron who hosted that summit in Paris earlier this month, in which you had a lot of European leaders who were worried that their own security concerns were being sidelined with the way that the Russians and the United States were having these unilateral meetings in Saudi Arabia and carrying on with a lot of these discussions here. So that was a big element coming into all of this today, Connell. And I think it's worth remembering that this isn't the only European leader who's visiting the White House this week. Prime Minister Starmer of the UK is going to be here on Thursday as well. So a lot of watchful eyes on all of this.
Yeah, that'll be a big one. Also, Robert Sherman live at the White House. Let's get into it. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.